Washington Commanders Nation, it is week one of the NFL season. The games are real. The stats count. The W's matter. We have finally arrived, which means this is season 3, episode 1 of the Commanders Declassified podcast. I cannot believe it's been, we're already to our 3rd season. I'll tell you what, I am absolutely pumped up about football. Eric, how excited are you for week 1?
I'm more excited for season 3. I didn't even realize that was a thing. Look at us. I'm excited for week 1. I mean, look, that's the NFL season is here. Been waiting all year for it. Can't wait to get some in-game action this week. But let's be honest, season 3, I think that's bigger news. Commanders Declassified.
Much bigger news. You are correct. Bryan, how you feeling?
I'm feeling awesome. Finally, week 1 of the season is here. We don't have to talk about, well, who's going to start, Buffalo nickel this. We get to see it. And hell yeah, season 3, that's awesome. That's big time.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, it's always fun having the off-season conversation because you get to talk about whatever you want. But, man, you don't have to try hard for content during the regular season because it just comes at you. It comes at you fast. I am super excited. Before we jump into the Jacksonville Commanders matchup, I had a question that we put on social media, and it was if you had to sign a safety or you had the opportunity to sign a safety for one season, and you could choose between Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, or Earl Thomas just for one season, which one are you taking? Eric, which one are you taking?
Like now?
I mean,
like prime Ed Reed. Like I don't want any of them right now. Okay. No, Ed Reed. I'd go Ed Reed 100%. He's the best to ever do it. I truly believe that. I mean, Ed Reed it's maybe Ronnie Lott's up there, but Ed Reed is the only one you could even put in the same sentence as Ronnie Lott as far as the safety goes. Polamalu was great. Earl Thomas has been great, but no, Ed Reed's different level.
Yep, I agree. It is Ed Reed bar none. I mean, he was amazing at baiting quarterbacks, getting interceptions. There was one season he had an injury. He missed half the year. He still ended the year with 8 interceptions. That's how good he was at baiting those quarterbacks, causing turnovers, getting the interception in his hands. It's just excellent. And he's regarded as one of the more cerebral football players. I mean, there's a couple of interviews where Bill Belichick is just kind of in awe describing Ed Reed play. So Ed Reed all the way.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Looking at his stats, I've never looked at his stats before, but he has seasons with multiple seasons of 9 interceptions as a free safety. Yep. As a free safety. That's nuts.
Yeah, he's that good.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go with Polamalu just because his impact near the line of scrimmage and in the backfield.
You like being wrong.
I think Ed is ultimately greater. I just think I love what Polamalu did near the line of scrimmage, man. I like football being a game of the trenches, and he participated in that trench warfare. So I would personally take Polamalu. But, yeah, Ed Reed is. Now, for all the Commanders fans listening, saying, what about Sean Taylor? I didn't put that on the poll because it's a poll directed at Commanders fans, and Sean Taylor would have been 100%. So I wanted to see where people's minds were relative to these other guys. All right. Anyway, subscribe, stay locked in. Hit the button. It's not that hard. Go find subscribe or follow or whatever it is with whatever platform you're on. Make sure you locked in. Do it now. Leave a review. Add some comments. All that jazz. Run it up. Run it up. All right. Week 1. We are ready for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's start here. Okay. The Jaguars offense. Okay. We're going to touch on that in a second. But the Commanders offense, Bryan, how do you think, number one, I'm going to ask you, how do you think we'll attack the Jaguars? And then how do you think the Jaguars defense is going to respond to that?
So I think we are going to try to attack the Jaguars up the middle with the run game and then take some deep shots. Their defense, the Jaguars defense, is mostly young players. They've got a couple of guys who are in their 6th year, but most of it are 2nd, 3rd year type players. They've got a handful of rookies who will be playing a lot for them. But they're very young. They're very inexperienced. And I think, our offense, the Commanders offense, is going to look to kind of take the fight to them, be physical with them, kind of intimidate them, impose their will, and doing that through the run game, and then hit some of those big shots, right? Hit, if Logan Thomas plays, or if it's Bates, whoever that is, at the tight end position, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin take some of those shots, but I really think that the Bucs are run by Mike Caldwell as the defensive coordinator. He came over from the Buccaneers staff, so he is a guy who's modeled after Todd Bowles. He's going to be running a 3-4 defense. He's going to look to jam up the middle, and he's going to blitz a lot. So we got to be prepared for lots of blitzing. They've got some athletic linebackers who are going to, try to use their speed to shoot some of these gaps, make some plays in the backfield, sniff out some of these wide receiver screens there. Devin Lloyd, everybody should know that name. That was a rookie that we all wanted to draft, or some of us wanted to draft. The Jaguars got him. He's starting, but the two outside linebackers, edge rushers, is where we could get ourselves into some trouble there. Josh Allen, who's an outside linebacker, defensive end, who's had a couple of productive years, coming off first season last year in the 3-4, had 7.5 sacks. He'll be a problem. We've got to make sure we know where he is. And then the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker, defensive end, outside linebacker from Georgia. He looked strong, big, fast, explosive in the preseason. He'll be on the opposite side of Josh Allen. So we've got 2 big guys who can rush the passer that we're going to have our hands full. Secondary, Rayshon Jenkins, Andre Cisco. You've got 1 younger player, 1 kind of vet. Not much in terms of those guys. Again, they're going to be blitzing. Their linebackers are going to try to make some plays, and they're going to try to get those edge rushers after us. So we'll have our hands cut out for us. But if we play to our game, we run the football, we take some of those shots. I think is the way that Scott Turner kind of wins that battle.
Yeah, I think with the Jaguars, we pretty much have our pick of how we attack them. Their defense, as you admit, or as you said before, is young and they're fast, but they have holes. They have big time, especially in the secondary. So, I think the opportunity exists. The way that I think we get ourselves in trouble is when we start to run the football laterally. I think if we do that, then that young talent's really going to cause some problems for us.
Yep.
But if like you said, if we go up the middle and then we take our shots against a secondary, I think we'll be just fine offensively. This is a game where I think Brian Robinson would have really feasted against a team like this. Yep. Whereas Gibson, who tends to bounce out of holes and towards the edge a lot, is probably not going to have as much success as a Brian Robinson might. But and we have Jonathan Williams, and Jonathan Williams is very good about finding the holes on the interior of the line and following those holes. So I think he's going to have some measured success as well, or some significant success as well, I should say. Eric, what are your thoughts on the offense and how we might do it?
I think you guys are going to be very angry because I guarantee you that we are going to be running laterally a lot. Because let's be 100% honest, that is the strength of this offense. It's how this offense is built, the speed that's there. You've got a healthy Curtis Samuel. You've got Jahan Dotson in the mix. You've got Gibson, who you see him in space. He's so much better in space. You've got McKissick. You've got all these guys that are fast and bouncy, and that's the strength of your offense is lateral plays. You're going to see a lot of lateral offense. Not my favorite thing. I really wish that, like you said, that Brian Robinson was here because he could balance that out and really hammer. Because I think you're right. I think with a defense, you saw it last year when we played Tampa. When you have a defense that loves to attack, the best thing to do is go right at him, just hit him in the mouth. I think in this game you can win with lateral offense because while they are fast, there is some inexperience. And they had a tendency to over pursue quite a bit. And I think you can get them on some maybe misdirection and lateral, but I think you are going to see a lot of lateral running. It's just in Scott Turner's DNA, and it's how the offense is built. So we'll see if it works because, I think there's a good chance of it working this week. This is the right week to probably try to get lateral some, but the deep shots are an absolute must. 100% absolute must. We got to get them deep. We got to get our receivers. The strength of our offense is that receiving group, and we need to make Jacksonville really struggle with that.
Yeah, one thing to point out too, the defensive line for the Jags, they're very ordinary. Their defensive ends are guys who were mainly backups who have just got to start in the last year or two. They're not high level type players, and if we're facing a team similar or that has a similar design defense to the Buccaneers, I mean, we were able to run the ball on the Buccaneers, not a lot of yards, but we were able to in spots run the ball on them, and this defensive line isn't near as talented as the Bucs defensive line. Our offensive line's pretty good, so I think there's going to be, hopefully anyway, a clear advantage to our guys against their defensive line.
Yeah, I think what's going to hurt us a little bit is the tight end situation. I mean, look, we don't know who's going to be active and not active, but if we don't have our top two tight ends, I have some concerns there. You mentioned the middle linebacker, Devin Lloyd, or he could potentially run with some of the tight ends, right? He's a very athletic guy. And, I don't think Trayvon Walker's going to be in space all that much, right? Because, in the 3-4, he's essentially a rusher, right? Most of the time. But I want to see one of our top 2 or 3 tight ends actually play, because I think we're going to need that, especially with Carson's, favoritism towards the tight end position. That's a concern for me just up front. Now that could change when we get the depth chart later in the week, or not the depth chart, but the actives and things like that later in the week. But that's something to watch for me. All right. How we think, so our offense, or excuse me, the Jaguars offense against our defense. Look, it's Doug Peterson, and Doug Peterson does 3 things really well. RPO. He is going to hammer with RPO, especially with an athletic quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, right? Super mobile, can throw on the run, can make every throw in the book. The guy is a stud. You might not have noticed it based on last year if you didn't watch the games because of the Urban Meyer situation and that whole debacle. This kid is 100% a 5-star blue chip quarterback, and we can't forget that, right? Now, I watched a little bit of some Jacksonville Jaguar games last year because of fantasy football, and it was very clear to me watching those games that he was good. He just wasn't playing with a high degree of talent. I think he's going to be on full display in his second year, this week. Now, doesn't mean we can't beat him, but I think that's something that we have to account for. The RPO stuff, I think we should be able to defend, right? Because we do have Montez Sweat, who's very good off the edge. Now, that gets concerning with linebackers like Jamin Davis, right? Over pursuit. Cole Holcomb potentially could over pursue, things like that. And then we turn them into big plays. But I just, with Doug Peterson, it's going to be RPO and it's going to be a lot of running the ball, but they're going to run a lot of plays too. You know what I'm saying? So, and keep the chains moving. As far as the run game goes, James Robinson, who I just traded to Eric in fantasy football.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, like an idiot. I didn't mean to do that. But he's a very solid running back, and he has amassed an amazing amount of yards in his first 2 seasons, especially his rookie year. He got hurt last year. I think it was an Achilles injury or something like that. But when he goes, that guy just eats up yards. And he's pretty amazing. But the thing with him is his yards don't seem to be impactful towards the offense, right? So you know how it is. There's guys that can just find a way to get yards, but not when it matters. He's that kind of dude. But if you're not careful, you're going to look up and he has 120 yards on you. Just no touchdowns. I know because I had him in fantasy last year. And then you have guys like Etienne, right? Etienne. They're very excited about him. He's like 216 pounds, super athletic guy out of Clemson. Played with Trevor Lawrence in college. So nobody knows what he's going to do in the pros because he was hurt all of last year. He got hurt before the season started. But I think, the potential is there for him to be highly effective against the kind of folks that we have on defense. He plays in space very well. He catches the ball extremely well. So I think, he's kind of like their McKissick, but bigger, who also runs the ball. And maybe what I'm trying to say is he's kind of like what we always thought Antonio Gibson would be out of the backfield, right? So that's a problem. And we'll get into some matchups that concern us. Trust me, he's going to be on my list. And if I don't remember to say it then, he's a matchup that concerns me. Outside of that, right? Outside of their backfield, I'm not overly concerned about much. Christian Kirk, please, okay? He was highly overpaid coming from the Cardinals. Is he a good receiver? Yes. Am I worried about him being matched up with like Kendall Fuller? No, I'm not. Okay. I think Kendall Fuller can take care of that situation there. I'm not all that concerned. I also think William Jackson will be better and will be able to handle him as well. Now, they also have Marvin Jones Jr. long in the tooth. He had some really effective years, but I am not concerned with Marvin Jones Jr. at this point in his career. He's going to be somewhat effective, but I don't think he's a game breaker that I need to really stay up at night and think about, nor do the coaches. Zay Jones, deep threat guy. He's really good at getting deep, kind of what we want Diamond to be, right? Runs a lot of deep posts, will catch the ball on you, but he'll also drop some passes on you too now. But he's a guy that I think could potentially cause some damage, especially on our back end of our defense. And, early last season, we saw guys getting open behind Bobby McCain and the rest of the secondary. And they sort of corrected that as the season went on. But I think Zay Jones is on my watch list for folks that I think we ought to look out for, but I'm not overly concerned about. And then Evan Ingram, the most inconsistent tight end in the history of tight ends. He has all the potential in the world, but absolutely never puts it together. Okay. He's a very, very athletic tight end. He has problems with concentration. He has problems with drops. He had 46 catches last year, 3 touchdowns, 408 yards. This is a guy that should be on the level of some of the premier tight ends in the league, but can't get it together. For some reason, he cannot pull it all together. And he's 28 years old, so he's probably not going to. So I'm not all that concerned about the tight end situation. Yes, I think Jamin Davis can do a good job covering him. So what I'm worried about from their offense is the RPOs and our discipline in that, because that always leads to play action, right? Directly out of the RPO, our guys are sucked up, and now guys are running open behind them. That is what I am concerned about. Eric, what say you?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is the biggest X factor. He's just, not. Yeah, you hit it on the head as far as he didn't have a lot around him last year. He's the best quarterback out of that class, even regardless of what anybody else from that class did last year. Lawrence is the best. He's fantastic. My concern is that this, turns into a coming out party for him, much like the Justin Herbert week 1 game did last week, where he just torched us. And with Doug Peterson there, can he put it all together right out of the gate, or is it going to take a few games to get that working? We'll see. That's the main concern. The running back situation with Etienne and Robinson. Thank you again for him. It's I think I traded you Kenny Galladay or something, so it's all good. Yeah. They're going to they might gash us a little bit in the run game, especially with the RPO. The one thing I like is that we should have a lot of Doug Peterson experience and hopefully know how to handle him. The last season, the first season with Del Rio and Vera here, they really handled that offense easily in the 2 games they played against them. So I hope that it's something that we're able to handle. But Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be a really good quarterback, and he scares me.
Yeah. Bryan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think definitely, you have to expect an uptick in performance from Trevor Lawrence with Doug Peterson there, right? We saw what he did with Carson in the second year. And I think with Lawrence, he's certainly going to play well. But we've got to pressure him. I think if we pressure him, I don't think he's going to be able to kind of persevere through some of the pressures, getting hit, getting knocked down, stuff like that. So we've got to make sure we're consistent with getting the pressure on him and making him move from his spot. If we can do that, I think we won't have any trouble. But if we're a step too late, if we're not disciplined, I think you mentioned it at the beginning, he can actually run. He is mobile. He has some speed. Is he going to break one for 50, 60 yards? No, but he can absolutely pick up 15 yards, 20 yards on you and keep the chains moving that way. So we need to be disciplined, but as long as we get pressure and we can get home and we can hit them, we can knock them down, I think that will rattle him. It seemed to rattle him last year in his rookie year. And if we can kind of continue that trend, I think we'll be just fine. Their run game, Doug Peterson, wants to throw it around. Will he run the ball? Absolutely. But at his core, he wants to run. He wants to throw it around. So I'm not too worried about James Robinson or Etienne. It's mainly, the big cushion that we're going to give some of these receivers. So we can't let Lawrence get into any type of rhythm or get hot or, complete 6 passes in a row or anything like that. We need to be applying the pressure. And I think if we do, I think the game goes our way pretty quickly.
Yeah, Doug Pearson runs his quarterbacks. He will run his quarterback if he has the opportunity. So Lawrence is definitely going to keep on some of those read options, right? And gash us probably. But, you have to expect that. Those quarterback keepers are really hard to defend in the RPO because of what might be behind that. So if he does it effectively, and he's a good ball handler in terms of his play fakes. So I think he's going to be effective in that. I do think they're going to run the ball a lot too. The thing about our offense that's going to be dependent on this is what does our offense do? If our offense is effective in pushing the ball down the field, I think Peterson's going to run less, more. But if our offense is just kind of like not doing much, I think they're going to open it up on the Jacksonville Jaguars offense too, to kind of put the nail in the coffin. But so Peterson's been around a long time. He's from the Andy Reid coaching tree. He's a dynamic play caller. Their offense can do anything that you want it to do relatively effectively. So, all right, Eric, your time to shine, man. Give us 3 ways to win and 3 ways to lose.
Well, okay, 3 ways to win. First thing we're going to do is we need balance on offense. We don't need to be a run-heavy offense. We certainly don't need to be a pass-heavy offense. We need to be a balanced offense. Doesn't have to be 50-50. It can be 55-45, whatever. We have to make sure the threat of the run is always there. And we have to be able to complete our deep shots when we get them. But we have to have balance on offense. It's basically the Tampa Bay game plan from last year. It doesn't matter if we're gaining a lot of yards. We need to make sure the threat of the run is there. That makes Wentz better on play action. He can run the ball if he needs to on keepers as well. So that's one. We win because we have a balanced offensive attack. 2, we win because of big plays. We're going to need to hit 1 or 2 at least big shots down the field, preferably a long touchdown. That's Terry McLaurin territory. We want to see what Jahan Dotson can do. We need to take advantage. Their secondary isn't very good. We need to put points up quickly, and we need to be able to put points up in a hurry in addition to being able to control the ball. It's got to be a mix of the two. So big plays and balance on offense. And number 3, we have got to get off the field on 3rd down. That's the number one thing. You said it. I'll get into it in the ways to lose because it's similar, but our defense has to play better on 3rd down. They weren't good in the preseason. They were terrible last year. That has to get better. It's going to be a long day if they can't. So 3 ways to win: get off the field on 3rd down, get off the field or make big plays, and balance on offense. Now, as far as 3 ways to lose this game, first of all, we don't get off the field on 3rd down. That's the thing that really scares me the most. And you said that Marvin Jones doesn't scare you. He's the one receiver, in my opinion, that scares me the most because of 3rd downs. He's that crafty vet that just knows how to get open. He knows where to go. He's the guy they got to watch. They don't have a lot. Ingram has had good games against Washington, with the Giants, because of course everybody does. But Marvin Jones, the Trevor Lawrence to Marvin Jones, that could be a thing, right? Like, it is a little bit scary because the 3rd down has been a weakness for us. We have to get better. Another way to win is we don't make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable. If he's got time to throw, we're in trouble. The defensive line has to get him off his spot. We have to keep him guessing in the secondary. He's a good quarterback, but he's still relatively inexperienced. We have an experienced secondary who can disguise maybe a little better, give him something that he hasn't seen before. So we need to make sure that he is not comfortable. The defensive line has to get pressure. We have to get pressure without blitzing. So make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable. The 3rd way we're going to lose, we could lose, is Trevor Lawrence has his Bruce Leroy moment, which that's what really scares me. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the greatest movie of all time, The Last Dragon, but when Sho'nuff is dunking his head going, "Who's the master?" and Bruce Leroy keeps popping up and he's all down, and then his head's underwater and he realizes that he's the master and he stands up and he's all glowing and just, I don't want Trevor Lawrence to realize that he's going to be the master at some point. I don't want him to realize it this game. I don't want a rehash of last year when Justin Herbert picked us apart. If Trevor Lawrence figures out the NFL this weekend, we're in for a long game. So I think keeping him uncomfortable plays a big part in making sure he doesn't realize how good he is. But yeah, if he figures it out this week, we're in for a long game.
Yeah, I agree, man. Those are great. Hopefully he does not figure that out. Hey, Bryan, I'm gonna kick it to you, man. Tell me, give me a couple of player matchups that concern you a little bit.
Yeah, so the kind of, it's the same matchup, but two different sides of it is Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, the two outside linebacker edge rushers for Jacksonville. They're going to be going up against Charles Leno and Sam Cosmi. We've seen a lot through Scott Turner's system. He doesn't give the tackles too much help. Not always. Sometimes he may keep a tight end in to help them block. But mostly those tackles are going to be on their own when it comes to blocking some of these pass rushers that we face. So those are going to be two matchups that are going to play a big part in this game. If Cosmi and Leno can nullify whatever Josh Allen and Walker are bringing, then we're going to have a really good day. Wentz is going to have a ton of time, and you're going to see Wentz uncork some big plays down the field. If we can't, and Josh Allen's getting home, and the number one overall pick is showing us why he was the number one overall pick, it's going to be a long day, and we may see a rough day for Carson. So those two guys have a big day ahead of them, and who knows where Jacksonville is going to deploy them. It may be anywhere along that defensive line. So we've got to be prepared for it. But those two guys have a really, really big matchup.
Definitely going to be a tough ask there. Eric, what are the matchups that worry you?
Our defensive line against Brandon Scherff and company. They spent a lot of money getting better up front this year. Our defensive line is supposed to be the strength of our defense. We need to dominate that. We need to dominate that game, the line of scrimmage. If we don't, it's going to be a long game. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, he wants that paycheck. It's time to earn it. Jonathan Allen is going to be that, but him and Scherff been going against each other for how long in practice? 3-4 years. So how well do they do against each other? I think Jonathan Allen can win that because I think Scherff is now that he's gone, I can say I think he's overrated.
Yeah.
But I think that the defensive line has to be better than the Jags offensive line this week.
Well, in particular, Sheriff's on he's right guard, so he'd probably be going against Payne. Who do we think gets that matchup, Payne or Sheriff?
Sheriff is in that stage of his career where he just has pretty much everything, especially going against his former team. And I think his technique is what's going to bail him out. I think Payne is a more physically dominant player at this point. It's just, I think Payne can win, but I think he has to be on his A game all week, all game long, or else Sheriff will, Sheriff's a very smart offensive lineman. And he's got a lot of experience going against those guys. So it's going to be tough, but yeah, Payne is capable of winning it. He's just got to bring his A game.
Yeah, one of the things with Payne that concerns me in this matchup is the rush discipline, and the lack thereof at times creating gaps for Trevor Lawrence to find holes to take off and run up the field. We saw Aaron Rodgers do that against us last time we played the Packers. We saw a couple quarterbacks last year. Our interior rush gets too far outside, and now you have this big gap right up the middle, and that quarterback's hitting right up the middle for 20 yards. So I think that's a concern with Payne for me.
I think something that'll help our defensive line is the Jags' starting center, I think, is Luke Fortner or Fortney or something like that. He's a rookie. The left guard, which is where Jonathan Allen will line up, is a Ben Bartek or something like that. Not a guy. He doesn't have a lot of starts, mainly a couple, backup seasons with a handful of starts. So, if you think about a weakness along their offensive line, that middle part is on the left side. There should be something that hopefully Daron and Jonathan Allen can exploit, and that way we don't have to maybe worry so much about Brandon Sheriff.
Yeah. What worries me in terms of matchups? The Jaguars rushing offense. I'm going to include Trevor Lawrence in that. I'm going to include Etienne. I'm going to include James Robinson against our linebackers. I think, we have two, and then there's Bostic too, so we don't know what his role is going to be, or at least how much he's going to play necessarily. But that's a concern for me. Our linebackers are somewhat athletic, but are they going to be able to stop these guys at the point of attack and then not miss tackles in space? Those are big things, and these running backs can create. James Robinson's, a really hard runner. Etienne is very elusive, so we have to be careful with that, or we're going to get ourselves into trouble. Eric, tell me how you think this is going to shake out for us.
I think that this works. This goes in our favor. I picked it. I've been saying it all off season. I think we're going to have a good year, and I think it starts this week. I think that Washington probably pulls away in the second half. Experience is what does it. I think they've been in their own systems for several years now, whereas this is first year offense, first year defense for these Jaguars. A lot of young players on that side. And as long as Trevor Lawrence is still, thinking instead of playing, Washington should be able to handle the business this weekend. And I'm going to go a nice solid day for the offense. I'm going to go 28-18 Washington. 4 offensive touchdowns.
I'll take that, man. That's awesome. Bryan, what's your thoughts, man? How is it going to shake out?
I think the Commanders win their first game as the Commanders, 36-22. I think Trevor Lawrence does play well. He'll hit some big touchdowns, but just not enough. He's not quite there yet. I think he will be by the end of the season. Hopefully, it's not the start of the season in this game, but I think Carson has a big day at 36-22. Good guys.
That's points, man. We'll take those points. Eric, you referenced the Chargers last year, and we played them early in the season, right? And then we were in the game until we had some of our issues of our own. I think this is going to be pretty similar. I think if we played the Chargers at the end of last year, they'd have blown us out the water. So Jacksonville's an ascending team, but I think it's going to take a while for it all to come together. And so I think we win this game. I'm going to say 23-17. I think it'll be within a touchdown, but I think we will have enough to hang on. So I think we take that one. Who scores the first touchdown in Commanders history, Eric? Who's going to do
it? Well, Brian Robinson already did, I guess, in the regular season.
Regular season, yes, sir.
Why would it be anyone other than Terry McLaurin? 70-yard bomb, first quarter.
Love that.
A lot of people
just like his rookie in Philly, at Philly. Right. 70-yard bomb. First quarter. Terry McLaurin, first touchdown in Commanders history.
Brian, who you got?
First of many.
Well, Eric already picked the good option, so I'm going to go Jahan Dotson with the first touchdown. I think we actually score on the opening drive of the game, and it's Jahan Dotson.
I'm going to go Jonathan Williams on a rush up the middle.
Jonathan Williams.
3 yards, yeah. He might start, brother.
He's the starting running back here.
As of right now, unless they put Gibson back on the depth chart at number 1. But we'll have to see when that comes out later this week. But I got I'm going to say Jonathan Williams is going to punch it in and on our way to victory. So
on his way to a 1,700-yard season, right?
Hey, let's go. Yeah. Eric, any final thoughts for the Jacksonville game?
I'm just glad it's back. Commanders uniforms are going to be looking fire. And they already do, and people are going to learn. I'm a uniform geek if y'all haven't figured it out yet. But, yeah, we're going to look good. We're going to play good. It's going to be a good weekend for Commanders fans.
For sure. Bryan, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. The wait is over. Finally, we get to see the team play. We get to see some of these rookies play. We get to see the new quarterback play. The only other final thoughts are, what are your guys' final thoughts about Bostic? Bostic, our secret weapon, is back.
Our secret weapon?
He's not as bad as everybody says he is. He's not great. He's an adequate middle inside linebacker. I don't know. I'm not thrilled to have him back, but I don't know. He gets a lot more hate than he probably deserves.
Yeah, I mean, on rundowns, it's fine. Yeah, when he gets put into pass coverage, I'm gonna get very concerned, very concerned. But hey, it's a player. I mean, the team clearly didn't want to go out and sign a big free agent at that position. So what are we gonna do? Let's see. My final thoughts. The third down defense and third and long in particular was an issue in the preseason. It was an issue last year. I think it's probably going to be an issue this year. You don't just magically get better from that if you haven't gotten better from it throughout this offseason already. We just have to find ways to keep ourselves out of third and long on defense. No, that doesn't even make any sense. We have to keep. We want them to be in third and long. We just want to stop it. Make it third and longer, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I just don't want it to be a problem. I don't know how we fix that.
Peterson goes for it on fourth down a lot too, so it needs to be third and really long.
Yeah, it
so
does.
They only get so it has to be fourth and long too, because Peterson, he likes to go for it on fourth down. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, the way that you beat that is pass rush. A lot of times on third and long, we get zero pass rush, and that quarterback has forever to pick that ball up. So Montez Sweat's got to win his matchups. James Smith-Williams, I guess. Is that who's the other guy is on the other side?
Yeah, that's who's going to be playing.
Shaka Tony.
Shaka.
Third down pass rush specialist, secret weapon. He's the X factor.
Well, let's make it happen.
23 sacks this year.
Yeah, okay. I like it. That's optimism for you. All right, fellas. Listen, if you guys are listening, fellas, ladies, everybody, subscribe. Everybody around the world, all over the globe, thank you for listening. Everybody at home in America, we love you. Subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and enjoy your Commanders football this weekend. We will be back with you after the game.
Hold on. Right? We got a big announcement coming next week. So people need to tune in, subscribe, hit the notification button, set a meeting invite alert on your calendar, whatever you got to do. But next episode, we've got some big news. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, sir. Please do. All right. We are officially out of here and have a great week one football. Peace.